Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Do you know what I'm drinking?
Yak's milk.
Not your father's fucking root beer.
I don't like that.
Oh.
I tried it and...
Did you drink it over ice?
Yeah, I also tried it with vanilla...
No, you screwed it up. You got to just eat the bottle.
Well, that's what I did wrong, I guess.
You know what I've started wearing?
Underwear?
Oh, Andy. No. I've started wearing my sweats and a robe. Over my sweats, and it's because I saw my dad do it, and then they gave my parents, as I was visiting them, and they gave me a robe that is incredibly soft, but it comes from the wardrobe of a dead man. Are you following this story, Andy? Okay, let me back up. There's a guy that is a relative of a cousin of my father who passed away, sadly, has many shoes, very expensive taste in clothes, happened to have a tan, sort of a taupey, incredibly soft robe. And I love this robe. And so I was visiting my parents, and they said, "Hey, need a robe? It belonged to this guy who is dead." And I said, I've never had the clothes of a dead person. And they said, "You should try them. They're very soft."
Clothes of dead people in general?
And so I didn't clarify, and I only have this one example. And I can tell you, it is empirically, it is very soft. And then I see my dad parade around in an equally soft robe over his sort of lounge clothes, his sweat clothes. And so he made me want to try it, and it's super comfortable. I've got this robe and this soft shirt and soft robe and my sweatpants. And it's kind of a whole new me for podcasting right now. Do you want to hear it again?
You know who you're becoming?
Who?
You're becoming Michael Keaton from Mr. Mom. You're going to start watching soap operas soon. You're start not be. You're going to lose track of time. Oh, was I supposed to pick up the kids?
You know, it's when I got the glasses. We've talked about this before. I got the glasses, and suddenly when I put the glasses on at night, I just need to really relax.
Is it like your superhero costume?
A little bit. It is. Yeah. Do you have any news?
Nothing that could top that.
Should we tell the people where we're from?
Where are we from?
This is The Next Reel on rashpixel.fm, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there's Andy Nelson.
Hey, howdy, hey!
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, this is the first of our second series on the films of 1939, and we're going to be talking about George Cukor's The Women. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com, subscribe to the show on iTunes, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel. And if you've ever had it come over you to take the news of the salon and get a story printed in the rags for all to see and judge, I tell you, then you're the kind of gal that's ripe for The Next Reel's Instagram, #PonyPrize, #GuessTheMovieChallenge.
And with that, since Stephen Smart is right in the middle of yet another Technicolor fashion show extravaganza, throwing peanuts at the monkeys even though the sign says don't feed the animals, I'll fill everybody in just like a modern Hedda Hopper. This week's movie was 1953's Pickup on South Street, directed by Samuel Fuller and starring Richard Widmark, Gene Peters, and Thelma Ritter. Congratulations to @Fegfee for his 4th win of the year. You're entered once again to win the 2016 Pony Prize. As always, a new contest starts on Monday.
We have some follow-up from the good Ben Lott with the Blot Spot.
Yes, that's right. Following up on his very own Listener's Choice episode, Ben wrote, "I'm glad you guys ended up enjoying one of my favorites. Naturally, since I have such a strong emotional attachment to it, I ranked it much higher than you. Your rank 139, my rank 6. But I think it was a little kind of caught by that Oh Brother block.
The Oh Brother block. That's right. Sometimes I worry that the Oh Brother block is in the way of some of our ranking. And then nights like this come along and I think, whew, thank God we have that Oh Brother block.
That's right.
Andy, I think it's time. Let's do some trailers.
So I have a super cheery one for us to talk about, Pete.
Oh, God. I saw this actually last week, and I thought, wonder when Andy's going to bring the whole ship down. Like this one.
Tonight's the night. The ship's already sinking, Pete. Why not make it sink faster? No, in all seriousness, I actually think this looks really good. Derek Cianfrance, who we actually were in school with.
Oh, my goodness.
I was in film school with Derek, and And this is his next film after several really interesting films that have caught a lot of people's attention. The Light Between Oceans is his latest one, based on a book, and it looks really, really heartbreaking.
There's nothing right about it.
It's about Michael Fassbender and Alicia Vikander.
Really?
I knew I was gonna botch it, and she just won an Oscar and everything, and I still can't say her name. Anyway, they are apparently I don't know if they're hermits or what, but they live alone on an island. And one day a boat appears, and it's got a baby in it, and they say, "Hey, let's adopt this little baby." Free baby coming in off the coast, and they make the baby their own. And years later, they are hanging out in town, and they meet a woman who happens to have lost her husband and daughter at sea, and the daughter is just the right age to be the same age as their daughter. Lo and behold, they realize, oh, this is her daughter, not ours. And then it's the decision of, do we keep it? Do we give it to her? Who's the rightful parent now? Blah, blah, blah. And it just is all set to rip your heart out. And I think it looks great. No, I mean, it does. It looks like it's going to just kind of beat you up. Rachel Weisz is in it, and like I said, Fassbender and Vikander. And, it is going to be hard to watch, but I am quite excited about it. What do you think?
What does it mean to be quite excited about a movie that's going to rip your heart out? I'm never excited about that. I know I'm going to enjoy them on some level, but excitement is not the word.
Well, I guess excited is, I enjoy emotional roller coasters. I enjoy films that play with my emotions, depending on or whichever direction it goes. And this looks like it's going to be a tough one to go through, but I'm excited about having my emotions fiddled with. How's that?
No, you win. You win this one, Andy. I didn't choose this trailer for a reason, mostly because I knew you would do it. But it's got it's got Alicia Vikander and Rachel Weisz right in the same film, and I love these ladies. I think they're fantastic. Michael Fassbender, I just watched him again just last night in Days of Future Past, and I find myself he's a pretty magnetic guy. Even in that stupid Steve Jobs, stupid movie, he was great.
Did you call him magnetic in Days of Future Past?
Did I? I didn't say that unintentionally, did I? Did I just say magnetic?
You said that, yes.
God, I am on fire. I don't even need to think. I just put it in neutral and coast, and it just fireworks. Fireworks, Andy.
You're a magic man.
Oh, that Fassbender. So I really like all these people. I am constantly this is one of those movies that's going to hurt to watch. It will, I'm sure, be beautiful and heart-wrenching. I have not read the book, the M.L. Stedman book that on which it is based. I probably won't. But I'm sure many people say that it comes with some critical acclaim.
Probably.
But it is gorgeous. I mean, it looks beautiful and deeply, deeply moving.
Yes, it does. It really does. I am, like I said, I'm looking forward to having my emotions be thoroughly destroyed.
Who would like this?
Thrown by the ocean onto the rocky shore.
Yes. You know who would like this movie? Your young children. You should take them.
Yes. Family movie night, kids.
The boat. Honey, free baby. Didn't I tell you how we got you?
Jeez.
Can I talk about my trailer now? Oh, wait, you got to tell us, when does yours come out?
It comes out September 2nd, so be ready to start September with some tears, everybody.
Oh, dear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, my turn. And I'm kind of in a hurry because mine launches on March 13th if you're in Austin. It launches, Andy, at the South by Southwest Film Festival. And so hurry, if you're going to see it, get your tickets and get down there. This is, of course, you know what I'm talking about, The Trust, crime thriller starring Nicolas Cage, Elijah Wood, and Jerry Lewis. It's even that Jerry Lewis, I guess. This is, I don't know what sort of, I had a whole other trailer in mind, and then this just came up. It was a front page of IMDb. This first trailer just came up with the trust, and I thought, it's Nick Cage. I make constant fun of this guy. And Frodo, of course I'm going to check this out. Of course I am. And you know what? It looks really weird and funny. These two cops, they are, they're just doing their jobs in a corrupt world, Andy, and they're investigating a drug invasion in a grocery store, and they find a bank vault. And that is where our story ends up getting interesting. It's got great music. I love the music of the trailer, the whole vibe. The second half of the trailer is, the first half I was kind of thinking, meh. The second half, I was having a great time. Once it became a caper trailer, I was sold. Comes from Alex Brewer and Benjamin Brewer. I'm going to call them the brothers Brewer, but they may be cousins. I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Don't know anything about them other than they have not done a whole lot. This looks like their first big film. They've done some shorts, and it was written by Benjamin Brewer and Adam Hirsch. Also, not known for a whole lot beyond some shorts. I have seen nothing of them, but I think this looks like if this is any indication of where they have come from, these guys are in for a funny career. That's what I'm saying.
You know what I thought when I watched this trailer?
I heard you laughing because I listened to it. So it can't be negative.
I was actually quite surprised that it kept showing things that it seemed like it was going in directions I wasn't expecting. And so
right?
It's like, you know what? I'm going to really give this one a chance because it really piqued my curiosity. These guys made me laugh. It seemed like a great pairing to have these two together. And I will see it. This pairing is maybe the last pairing I would imagine with Nicolas Cage is Frodo. He actually totally pulls it off, I think. He does.
It takes a certain kind of character actor to match Nicolas Cage in this kind of movie. But this is the kind of movie that Nicolas Cage is made for.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm a fan. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it looks great. Again, opens narrow as in Austin, Texas release March 13th, 2016. That's coming right up this weekend.
Well, here's hoping it'll get picked up there.
That's right.
Get a better release, yeah.
Somebody distribute this thing, please.
Please.
There you have it. Andy, give me a bromide and put some gin in it.
Edith, take a good grip on yourself. You're going to die. Stephen Haynes is stepping out on Mary.
But Sylvia, who told you? A manicurist?
What girl?
This Crystal Allen.
Crystal Allen?
Yes, you know, the girl who's hooked Mr. Haynes.
Hey, what happened to the hot date you had on for tonight, darling? It's hotter than ever, dear. I'm having him dine at my place. About time he found out I was a home girl. Home girl? Get her. Why don't you borrow the quintuplets for the evening? Because I'm all the baby he wants, pet.
Andy, The Women. 1939. Comedy drama is what they call it. From director George Cukor, writers Claire Boothe Luce. Is that what you would say? Luce? She wrote the play?
She wrote the play.
Lucy? Luch?
I think it's, I assumed it was Luce, and the other one is Luce also.
Yeah, and then the screenplay is by Anita Luce and Jane Murfin, with uncredited additions from F. Scott Fitzgerald and Donald Ogden Stewart. Stars Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford, Rosalind Russell, Mary Boland, Paulette Goddard, Phyllis Pova, Joan Fontaine, Virginia Weidler as Little Mary. This and many more. This is a film, a cast of all women, and
when you say all women, it really is all women.
Yeah, it is a cast full of
more than 130 females.
Yes,
speaking in this film. Not to mention the animals were all female, and every photo that you see, it's only females in the photos,
except for George Cukor, and nobody picked up on that maybe they should let a woman direct. Maybe.
But
1939. What are you going to do? All right. So the premise of The Women, this is what I thought. I thought it's Sex in the City with no men, more women, and even less interesting story. Does that pick it up pretty well? And, I know I'm going to be hard on it, but I will tell you, there are some interesting things in this film. I think that the second half of the film, and we'll talk about the break point, is actually much more interesting to me than the first half of the film, which I think is drivel. The second half of the film offers us a glimpse at some incredibly interesting political and legal and gender history that I think is definitely worth talking about. The way the film kind of portrays it is fluffy, and it was tough to watch. I actually slacked you a number of times. Does this film actually end, or is it just a loop of nonsense like this all the way through? So, anyhow, what did you think of it? Was I alone?
No, you were not alone, Pete. No, you were not alone. It's funny. Luce, and when I say Luce, I mean Anita Luce, not Claire Boothe Luce. Anita Luce, screenwriter. She actually, I guess, claimed that it's always been men who find the women offensive. And, I almost take offense at that comment.
I do too.
And granted, she said that sometime in her lifetime, which was not in recent times.
Right.
I'd like to think that things have changed a little bit, and I just found the story here. I really looked at this like, okay, what was it that made people interested in this story back in the 30s?
I'm delighted to hear what you uncovered.
Well, I'm not sure if I uncovered much, but I really struggled because I'm like, okay, there's got to be something that had made this play so popular that it played 666 times.
They were proud of
I'm proud of it, which they were so proud of they actually put in the credits here. I just struggled trying to connect with it. I really had a hard time with opinions and advice that was given. There were some elements that I liked. There were some bits of dialogue and some confrontations that I liked quite a bit. But on the whole, I really had a hard time with this. I found it to be just a very dated film, and even looking at it through those glasses, saying, "Okay, I'm going to put my 1939 glasses on and watch this as if I am watching it back then." I still just have a difficult time really finding it a film that I find much worth in.
The premise of the story, really, I mean, I joke about the Sex and the City thing, and for whatever that's worth. The premise of the film is that it's a survey of the lives and romances of this group of connected women, this network of women in the incredibly wealthy part of New York, an incredibly wealthy area of New York, right? And our main character is played by Norma Shearer. She's Mrs. Stephen Haynes, Mary Haynes, and she's sort of our protagonist of this thing. Even though we follow a number of women and their relationships, they all tend to revolve around Mary Haynes, and this is all set in motion. The whole story is set in motion when we discover that Mary Haynes' husband, Stephen Haynes, is having an affair with the perfume lady at a local high-end fashion store. That is Crystal Allen, played by Joan Crawford. And the thing that really rubs me the wrong way about this movie, and this I know is a reaction that is marked by the datedness of the film, is that it doesn't make any of the women look good, right? It really demeans and diminishes every one of the women in this film. There is not a strong woman of integrity among them. Even Mary Haynes, who gives up at the end, and I find the ending an absolute disappointment. We can talk about that in a bit. But what do you think of that conceit, that this makes women look bad?
Oh, I completely agree. This makes women. I mean, again, this is from 1939, and I there are elements. I think it's almost a little schizophrenic, because there are elements that I think are actually pretty strong for women. I like that Mary views her relationship with her husband as one where they are kind of equals, where she can go fishing and catch fish, sometimes even better than her husband. There are she's fine horseback riding. Like she seems to be kind of on par with being right in there in the action and doing whatever it is and not just sitting idly by.
I love that you said schizophrenic, because she has a great relationship with her daughter in the beginning of the movie. She's a strong sort of role model figure, and then is not.
Right, exactly. And that's it. It's like it goes from these things where it's like women doing strong things and being strong to I mean, her mother, the wise old owl, giving her advice of, these men, they just need these things because they don't know how to change things in their life, and the only thing that they think they can change is having another woman on the side. And I was just like, this is the advice your mother gives you, and that it's okay, and just to kind of go along with it.
Yeah, don't talk about it. Don't confront him about it. Keep it a secret, just like I did with your father.
Right. It's like, wow, this is horrible. And I was glad to see again that she's just like, are you nuts? There's no way I'm going to do this. And I was like, okay, well, this is interesting. She's not going to take her mother's advice. And then she didn't. And she ends up getting divorced and going through the whole proceeding. And then it all crumbles because it's like they set some interesting character elements up for her and some of the other women. And then it all crumbles because in the end, she says that she has to swallow her pride because, what is the line? I wrote it down because it made me so mad. Her mother's like, Mary Haynes, haven't you any pride? Pride? Not at all. Or no pride at all. That's a luxury a woman in love can't afford. It's like,
good grief.
She basically has to forego, the strength that she has found as a woman who can do her own thing, and forego it because she's not been able to get past the loss of her husband. And now she knows that her husband is miserable with this other woman that he cheated with, when he was with Mary, and he wants out of that relationship, and so Mary willingly accepts him back and basically forgives him, and it's almost like saying, yeah, he can do whatever he wants, and sure, you can leave him or whatever, but hey, if you swallow your pride, you can get him back and just suck it up like nothing's wrong.
Because I'm a woman in love.
Oh man, it just that really bothered me. It's just like, and like you said, it's like, what sort of example is she setting for young Mary? She's not setting any good example. I mean, it's a terrible example to set.
What's actually interesting, you bring up young Mary, and I think I may have spoken too soon. Young Mary is about the only character in the film that has any sort of spine. And I find that ironic. It's young Mary who ends up kind of sort of speaking truthfully and authentically to her mother about what she's heard. It's young Mary who stands up to this awful Crystal Allen, Joan Crawford's character, in the bathtub, which is a very strange scene. But it's young Mary who actually has the sort of integrity that you want at least some character in the film, some adult protagonist level character to display as a role model for children. None of them have it, and it is young Mary who ends up being the character that you can sort of latch onto only briefly.
Yeah,
you're right. I don't find the women offensive at all. Certainly not for the reason I feel like she is implying. I'm gonna really be stuck on that. This loose comment.
No, it's strange. It's strange. And something else about the writing of this, and I think the film sets it up in a way that I thought was interesting and kind of fun, but also incredibly dismissive of all the characters. That when it starts the film, and I can say, okay, one reason that they do this, where as they introduce each actress playing one of the characters, they show an animal. So you get, here's Norma Shearer playing Mary. She's the deer, right?
Yeah.
And then you get Joan Crawford playing Crystal, and she's the leopard. Mm-hmm. And Sylvia is the black cat, Flora is the monkey, Miriam is the fox, Peggy is the sheep. There's owl.
Oh,
cow,
Edith is the
fawn,
cow.
and the horse. Yeah, right. It's it's silly. So I found this this quote in this review of the film on this the website, this blog, A Crowded Bookshelf. It's telling that the movie opens with the credits. Each star is given an animal that she represents. Some of the characterizations are kind, but others not so much. There are some cliches, including cats, tigers, and child star Virginia Weidler as a lovely fawn. Rosalind Russell and Joan Crawford, the film's two villains, are represented by a hissing cat and a panther, respectively. What the viewer immediately is clued into is what kind of personality each character possesses. It's a funny bit, but not necessarily because the writing is clear and the characters are drawn so unequivocally that you'll immediately understand which woman you are meant to root for, who are you meant to scorn, and who you are meant to loathe. The writers, while witty, aren't exactly subtle, nor are they interested in complex, difficult characterizations. And I think that sums it up pretty well. It's just, these are very just kind of sketches of these women characters. And sure, they have some fun lines and stuff, but for the most part, I didn't find any of them that interesting to follow. And I kept referring to my page because I wrote down what all the animals were. I'm like, oh, okay, she's the sheep. Sure, I can see that.
That's the problem I had with it, is that I knew from the moment they started this, they open up the credits with the animal parallelism, right? The symbolism. It is wearing that symbolism so heavily on its sleeve, this film, that you realize the film probably doesn't have anything of merit on its own to say in these characters. If they're going to just hit us over the head with the symbols of what these classical animal symbols, what they mean, and align them so heavily to these women, they're going to do disservice to the actual characters. That's what I felt. And maybe that helped me sort of prejudge the film in maybe a negative way. Maybe I should have watched it without watching the credits, but it really put a bad taste in my mouth at the very beginning.
And, it was one of those things where I went kind of like tried going back to the 30s and going, okay, maybe for the audiences there, they really can already connect with most of those actresses. I mean, it's kind of like the stable of all the top MGM actresses at the time. It's like, all the big ones are in there. Okay, so I'm like, okay, so it's kind of cute, it's kind of fun. I can see kind of why they would do something like that. It's just a fun way to kind of give us this broad sense of these actresses, especially because there are so many of them, and having little shortcut like that might be something that could help. So I was like, okay, I can give it that. But at the same time, like I read from that bit, it just leaves it so broad that it just seems like they didn't try that hard.
Let's talk about George, can we?
Before we do, one more thing in the script that I think just keeps us from really identifying well with these type of women.
This may be it.
Yeah, I mean, we have this technicolor fashion show in the middle with some completely outrageous fashions by the designer Adrian. And I think it speaks to the world of fashion that it doesn't seem that it's changed that much in my eyes. that fashion show fashion is usually interesting to look at, but you would never ever see anyone wearing any of them.
What was the deal with the woman wearing the dress with like the spikes coming out of the back of her hand, that giant post of jewels? Sure. I mean, there is some ridiculous stuff in here.
Some crazy. And there was ridiculous outfits even when they weren't at the fashion show. I liked the outfit that Sylvia is wearing early on in the film, where she's got like eyeballs all over her shirt. Very strange. But the thing I was going to say is that after the fashion show, when they're all kind of, going on and trying on clothes and everything, we have this model walking around in this nightgown, and Mary looks at it and is like, "Oh, how much is it?" And she's like, "Oh, it's $200. This is a $200 nightgown in 1939. In today's dollars, that is basically a $3,300 nightgown." Who are these women? It's like this. You said Sex and the City earlier, and I think that is it. I mean, these are women who just don't have a sense of reality and are living in kind of this fantasy world where they spend $3,300 on a nightgown that will hardly see the light of day, just maybe their husband's eyes, and that's it. It's a different sort of mentality, and maybe the film is trying to kind of comment on that type of woman, but it doesn't seem to in my eyes.
No, it really doesn't. It certainly doesn't make a very good case, whatever it's trying to do. but again, moving to George.
Yeah.
Now, is it ironic that this film, in my eyes, holds up only marginally better than Gone with the Wind does?
It's funny because he had started on Gone with the Wind, and then he was removed because they didn't feel he was quite the guy to do it, and he ended up getting this film instead. And sure, they say he's an actor's director, he's a woman's director. It seems like, okay, this might have been the film for him. And I mean, I will say, there's a lot of great women in here, and I think there are some good performances in here. I think that for what the script is, I think he handled it well, and I think that there are some nice confrontations between some of the women that I really like. I mean, I do feel that he caught some good bits here. It's just I really just don't like the film.
Well, I think he got some okay confrontations. I think in general, my opinion of these of the large majority of the film is that it is way too many voices on screen at once, talking over one another at once. This is a film that I think technically the audio was not able to keep up with the vision of what they wanted to do. I think maybe they could have come up with a film like this, with so many voices today talking over one another and still allow us to really hear and figure out what we should be focusing on some of these big screaming matches. I had a really hard time just placing what he wanted me to do. It was chaos. And then this is partnered with some of the most incredibly boring sequences of dialogue, of much more intimate dialogue that I've seen. This sequence when the two servants are talking in the kitchen about what the maid has been eavesdropping on the main couple, the Haynes couple, as they are having a fight upstairs about their divorce. We have just this two-shot of these two women sitting at a table. It looks like, I mean, it's about as proscenium as you get of just these ladies talking about what happened just a few minutes before. It is incredibly boring and not at all illustrative of any of the character traits of the main characters that we want to see. And it goes on forever. I mean, just talk about putting your focus in just the wrong place.
Well, and I have a hard time deciding if that's Cukor's problem or if that's a problem from the play or the screenplay.
It certainly feels like an appendix from the play.
It does. And I think, I mean, that's kind of, my biggest problem with that is it feels completely like a side effect of this idea of let's tell a script with only women. And we have to do the whole thing from women. We can't ever show a guy. And by making that choice, what happens is you have a very important scene, which is the scene where Mary is fighting with Stephen about this affair that he's having and saying, we're going to get divorced. That's a key emotional core scene for a character and for us to really connect with her and to be a part of that scene. And for us to have to see the entire thing through the two maids as they gossip about it, because the only way they could write it is without showing Stephen is by having it told by this perspective of these two maids. That is a terrible, terrible screenwriting choice. It's a problem that is because of this way they wanted to tell the story. And I fault them all for being a part of that and saying, this is how we have to do it. I think it was probably a smarter idea for when they did the remake in the 50s, the musical version of this, The Opposite Sex, where they actually included the men. I think that was probably a smarter way to tell a story like this. I can't say if it's actually any better. It's probably not. And I probably won't ever watch it. And wasn't
it remade as a film again in 2008, right? This was the Diane English film. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen that one either. I heard it was even worse than this.
As did I. Meg Ryan, Annette Bening, and Eva Mendes. And yeah, oh my goodness. It was another... this one also actually stayed true, I believe, to the no women or no men on screen until the end. I think they show the male baby, but it's the same thing. So I agree with you. I think I couldn't help but really latch on to the Bechdel test while watching this film. How ironic is it that, and I recognize the Bechdel test is, a modern invention, but how ironic is it that we have an entire film with hundreds of women all named, and the only thing they ever talk about is men. This is a whole movie that failed. I mean, talk about missed opportunity.
Oh yeah. It's it's marketed that way. The poster and everything says, and it's all about men, as if they needed to find a way to draw men into to the crowd to watch the movie. I don't know. I feel like it was just a fail on all parts, and I don't know. I think that what people liked at the time was probably that they felt there were some strong women and some strong women confrontations. In retrospect, I just don't think that you can say that. I really don't think you can.
Final comments on George Cukor. Are we done with him?
The only other thing I was going to say about him, which I thought was pretty interesting, is that later in life, he really apparently did not like the fashion show sequence and didn't want it to be a part of it anymore. I guess that sequence actually was removed from many screenings for a long time, and it wasn't until, I think in the last 15, 20 years or so when Turner Classic Movies actually reinstated it into the film, and that's how it's been shown since. But there was a very long period of time where that fashion show sequence was actually excised, which I thought was, I didn't care for it. I thought it was interesting that they actually removed it. And they also shot a black and white version of it as well, which they included in, I guess, some theaters where they couldn't show color. I really didn't understand why they had that other version.
We should talk a little bit about what it is and what it marks, because I don't think we've done that. I mean, it
right.
is really jarring in the film that halfway through, or about 50 minutes in, I think, the movie, which is all black and white, stops, and all the ladies go to this fashion event, and then the movie changes to color, and then it becomes this sort of stage play of a fashion show that's like 8 minutes long with no dialogue.
I thought it was 10.
10 minutes.
Longer, yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, it felt like 30. In color, and it shows the most bizarre high fashion, just in and out and off stage, on stage, and of course it doesn't hold up very well by sort of production standards. If you're used to looking at sort of the New York fashion scene, that you feel like it's very 1939. But it is it changes the entire perception of the film and into this color, modern, beautiful, vibrant thing, and then the life gets sucked out of it again, and you're back into black and white. I found it such a strange choice to shoot this in color, to shoot the film in black and white if you're going to put this jarring thing in color. It really makes me sort of realize, I mean, I certainly understand why Cukor would hate it later in life. It seems like just a really strange decision, and it didn't fit for me structurally in the way that I would have expected to like take a break from the film, sort of like an intermission as a chapter break. It is much more jarring than that. It doesn't let you sort of reset, because after we fall right into more drama of the ladies actually as they start going through the clothes. So I couldn't figure out why they did it. I couldn't make a case for it. I don't know. It just didn't make any sense.
I mean, I could see why they did it. It's, it was probably a way for women of the time, people of the time, to, while they were watching the movie, to see it's like to go to a New York fashion show. And I think a lot of audiences never had that opportunity. It's not like they all had Project Runway on their TVs all the time. I mean, they didn't have that opportunity. And to go to a movie theater and actually get to see a fashion show, I can see kind of why they would do it at that time, where people would, they get to pay their whatever it was and to get to see this.
Okay, now, that is an interesting perspective, but Andy, 10 minutes.
Oh, no. I'm not saying...
Andy, come on, man.
I agree.
You are insane. You were making the case. So you think it's a cultural win, right? You think it's a cultural win that they included this for ladies of the time in, East Podunk, who never had a chance to go to New York to actually see a fashion show.
Yeah, I think it actually, it's weird. I think, again, it ends up being schizophrenic, because I think it serves two purposes. I think it is a chance for people who have never gotten to see a fashion show to actually go kind of sit in on one and just see all these crazy fashions for 10 minutes, because they are kind of crazy, as I've already said. On the other hand, it's not that far after the Great Depression. And I think the other flip side of that is that it could be some weird way to kind of show audiences, kind of this sickening side of society, and how crazy these women are that are spending $200 in 1939 dollars on these nightgowns, and probably more on some of these most just completely outlandish outfits. So it could be working on both levels, although I just don't think I'm getting any of that other level. I think that's me reading into it. I don't. Yeah.
I think you're giving it much too much credit for being culturally subversive.
I think I am. I'm just wanting it to be more, Pete. I just really do.
I want it to be more, Andy, because I want 1939 to have represented something bigger than what I have discovered so far, given how much people trotted out as the best year of film in history. I am not seeing that.
Not with this film, certainly.
Certainly not. All right. So we've talked a little bit about Adrian, the costumes. Shall we talk a little bit more about the rest of the production, cinematography, production design?
Yes.
Let's do that. Cinematography by Oliver T. Marsh and Joseph Rutenberg. Now, we've already talked about some of the things I've been super disappointed in the film in terms of just how they portray some of these appendices from the stage play. I will say that in particular, and I found myself thinking this out loud. I was thinking out loud, nice shot. There is a scene where we have Norma Shearer after as she's walking out of the little waiting room after the fashion show, and there is a really long walk directly toward the camera as she's walking in and going to her dressing room. And I thought, that's really interesting. Another sequence, the opening sequence, the camera work and the editing in particular, as we are walking in and out through the rooms of the spa, was fantastic and really kinetic and I thought really energetic.
I mean, I agree with you there. I had no problem with the way the camera work was done. I actually thought that, considering the type of film it was, a very talky, gossipy sort of film with just a lot of women, I thought that the camera moves were nice. And I actually did like some of the framing. I didn't have the problem that you did with Cukor as far as the way that the scripting was, as far as how the audio and everything. I found that I followed it pretty well. And I also liked the way that he and the cinematographers actually framed the shots. I liked the kind of the groupings of the women, and I don't know, it just seemed to work for me the way that they framed everything. I mean, it wasn't anything too fancy, but I thought it worked. I thought it worked fine.
Yeah, I think they actually ended up, some of those sequences, they ended up portraying just the physical movement of the women in the spa. I thought was just really funny. I mean, that was the part of the comedy that really struck out for me, or stuck for me, I should say. And I think that's the piece that leaves kind of a lasting impression, is just watching these women in 1939 try to exercise. And be pushed around by their coach, and getting their facials and all of this stuff. I mean, that's a real that's sort of an iconic bit of history that I found super amusing.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. No, I think that they did a good job. And I will say, I've never been a huge fan of kind of the soft close-ups that they would do in the this period, the 30s, 40s, 50s, when you're showing kind of a close-up of your female protagonist. You kind of get that Vaseline on the lens type of look. That's a really soft, lovey focus sort of look.
This whole film.
It definitely feels that way. And as much as I didn't care for the last shot and kind of the way that what it represented and everything, I was like, okay, it actually works in context of what they're doing for the film. In that shot, I didn't care for the moment, but I was like, you know what? It actually works here, though. So I'll give them that, even though I didn't like it.
You want to talk about Cedric Gibbons?
Art direction by Cedric Gibbons. we talked just now about kind of the spa that opens this film, and as much as it looks like a set, like as soon as they walk in and you've got all the stuff with the dogs and all that stuff, and we got our little Butterfly McQueen moment and everything. It looks like a set, but I really liked the set. I was like, this is kind of exactly what kind of an over-the-top ridiculous spa should look like. It's just like way too gaudy, way too much. Cedric Gibbons, I think did a great job here with the design, both here, the Reno Divorce Ranch, kind of all of this. But the thing that I really found interesting about Cedric Gibbons is that just kind of the history of this fella. Not only is Cedric Gibbons credited as the guy who designed the Oscar, he ended up getting 38 Oscar nominations for Best Art Design and won 11 of those. He was a guy who apparently had a contract with MGM where every film that MGM released, and I'm sure it was just a period of time while he was there, every film had to have him in the credits as the art director. So he's credited with like 1,500 films that he worked on.
Oh my goodness. His IMDb page is bananas.
It's nuts. It's just insane that this was kind of this. It boggles the mind that somebody could come up with a contract like this. It says he actually only worked on, like hands-on, physically working on about 150 films, which is still a lot of films. But it's just, he's credited with like a ridiculous amount. And it's great that he's like the guy who's, designed the Oscar and everything. But it's like there's this weird bit of film history with this guy. It cracks me up.
How does one get that kind of contract?
I don't know.
That is unreal.
It is a really strange contract to get. I mean, he's just like an insane amount of credits. And it makes me wonder, it's like, how do you tell which are the ones that he actually worked on and which are the ones that he just had a credit on because of his contract? I
mean, do we have reason to believe that he actually did this film? He did like 40 films in 1938.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. No, from what I read, he did actually work on this film.
Okay. That's crazy.
But then he was also working on The Wizard of Oz this year. So I think he did get an Oscar nomination for that one. So I assume if he's getting an Oscar nomination that he actually worked on it. But I don't even know if I can say that. Like, I don't know how that works.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, that is really crazy.
Yeah. So that's Cedric Gibbons.
Some of that.
Right.
Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the cast members that stick out to you?
I mean, I like the pack of women. I mean, Norma Shearer, I think, works well as Mary. I think there are issues that I have with the character. I don't know if I have issues with her so much. I mean, maybe she might be a little, I don't know, a little, what's the word? I want to say just kind of easy as far as her character arc, which I guess she's the one who kind of has, as she kind of grows and then kind of regresses over the course of the film.
Her character arc is a circle.
Right. It's not an arc. It's a full circle.
But I agree with you. And that was my perspective. In terms of her portrayal of this character, she was the most likable of the lot. She wasn't
by design, really.
Yeah, by design. I mean, she had to be. She was the only one of the group that actually sort of stood out, with the exception, I think, of Florence Nash as Nancy Blake, who I think she was the other sort of subdued, kind of stoic of the group that I thought was kind of interesting to watch. But in terms of
who was that? Because I couldn't for the life of me remember.
She was the short writer I've been with the tribe of headhunters in New Guinea, or whatever her line was at the end. She was the one who she was a writer
at the end.
Well, she's in it several times throughout the film
for some reason.
Yeah. Anyhow, so I think that there are, in terms of people who just sort of stand out, I thought Norma Shearer was great. She was the most likable. She was the one that I sort of found myself having a natural affinity to. I think in that respect, I totally agree with you. I really dislike the way this character was written, but the way the character was portrayed, and I think I think you could say the same for many of the characters in the film. I did enjoy their performances of these terrible characters.
The one thing I will say, I mean, she has several scenes that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. One was the scene where she talks to her daughter about divorce. Now, again, I kind of have to go back to saying this is the 30s.
1939, yeah.
This is 1939. But, as a child of divorced parents and having been a child, having my mother have this conversation with me, I actually really appreciated that this was in a film in 1939. I'm like, this is a tough conversation for any parent to have.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed the way that she did that. I enjoyed Virginia's kind of reaction to it. It did feel very much like, child acting in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I still appreciated it. And I appreciated her trying to be tough for her mother and the way that she kind of walks out and she's got that quivering lip. I really enjoyed the way that they did the scene. I also enjoyed Norma's performance several times when she's like on the phone and she's really trying to keep it in. And, she's great with kind of holding the wet spot in her eye without letting the tears roll out. She does that really well here.
Yes.
We see it like every time she's on the phone pretty much, but
yeah, no, she does definitely delivers good phone. She's like, what's his name does good phone? Bob Newhart. She does Bob Newhart level phone, or I should say Bob Newhart delivers Norma Shearer level phone.
Wow, there you go.
And I agree with you that to talk just a little bit more about Virginia Weidler, her performance as she goes into the next room.
Yes.
Mommy, I have to go wash my hands. She's totally holding it together. And I thought, if this were a movie made, like, imagine this movie made today, doing that thing. I mean, she would have gone into the room and like really she would have done some damage or somehow got, done something really horrific. And in this movie, she just grabs the wall and starts saying, "Oh, mommy dearest. Oh, daddy darling." She kept saying, "Daddy darling." I thought, oh, how quaint. I thought the 30s
It was really quaint. It's,
just awful.
But I like what they did, because that to me felt like the way that a child who has been trained how to act. I mean, and when I say act, I don't mean act as in perform, but I mean, this is how in proper society, this is how a woman behaves. And this is how a little girl who is learning how a woman behaves would try to behave. And I actually felt that it worked pretty well for me.
I agree with you. I actually agree.
I'm surprised, but I do.
All right. Joan Crawford was appropriately despicable.
Yes, and I guess that she and Norma Shearer actually, there was some real tension between the two of them, and I thought that was interesting that they chose to cast these two to play these roles. So that was, I thought that was kind of an interesting bit of casting here. And Joan Crawford is an actress I haven't seen a whole lot. I feel like the only other thing I've seen her in is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. So I've got kind of an interesting spectrum for her.
Wow. That's not great.
I know. Oh man. I'll have to do some more
you should
viewing
catch
of
up
some
on
Joan
some Joan
Crawford.
Crawford.
I know, I really need to.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I thought she was perfectly hateful in this film. And absolutely resented, her role in this little cohort. And she was really sociopathic. I mean, she totally missing the any sort of moral cues that were put out. I think several of the characters you may have been able to categorize as sociopathic, but in her case, she really was pretty textbook, and I think that made her interesting to watch. And actually, I should say, in terms of how that character was written, that's the one that I don't have a problem with. For sort of 1939 portrayal of diabolical woman.
She's great.
She was bad, and she was great being bad, and it's a character. It's a villain. I mean, it was a good sort of social villain. So
she's there's something about the kind of the wickedness that she has, and I like how she's not. I mean, there's something about that antagonistic character where she shows no shame about it either. And when Mary actually confronts her after the fashion show, Crystal is like, yeah, whatever. Well, I'm going to keep doing it. So tough.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And I mean, that was actually another scene that I actually really liked the dialogue in, because I thought it was two strong women confronting each other about this common man between the two of them, and how Mary was trying to stay on the side of right, and Crystal's just like, screw it. Whatever. And I love that line as she kind of is finishing up, and she's, I can't remember what Mary says, something about, buying clothes that Stephen will like, or don't buy that one because Stephen won't like it. And Crystal's just like, oh, don't worry. Anything that Stephen doesn't like, I just take it off.
It's just awful.
That was like, I was like, okay, this is a great, just a really fun, catty line.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And it also reflected, I thought, well, the way that they were playing around, getting around the production code.
Right. So do you, were there any other of the women that you specifically want to call out besides Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford, Virginia Wilder?
I loved Rosalind Russell. I thought she was great as Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
In like My Girl Friday, stuff like that, she really has that fast patter down. And I think she does a great job here of being that character.
Yeah, I found her just pretty annoying.
Well, right.
I mean,
I
supposed to, I know, but she was tough to watch. I think not because she wasn't portraying this character that well, but mostly because the film was overlong by half, and I think I was just exhausted of her by the end. I could say the same thing of Mary Boland, Boland's character, who is the Countess de la Vey, that I found just tough to watch. Paulette Goddard, though, how I could have watched her all day.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of these strange films that, again, it has this schizophrenic air, because Miriam is having an affair with Sylvia's husband.
Right.
And Mary, who was cut deep by her husband having this affair with Crystal, doesn't seem to have a problem hanging out with Miriam. It's like,
yes,
you're doing to me, or you're doing to Sylvia what Crystal did to me, but we can be friends and there's no problem there.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's a weird sensibility there of they dismiss things so well. Like, nobody seems to have the same problem with Miriam that they do with Crystal. And I found that really weird, even though Sylvia
does at the end. They have a fight on the ranch.
Yeah, right. They have that fantastic cat fight, but it doesn't seem to, nobody seems to care that much about it.
Stick, yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird. I think it's good. I mean, they all kind of write it off like, oh, well, Sylvia's husband, they don't like each other anyway or whatever, but it's like...
Right. Well, and again, some of it is just me, writing, I don't know, I feel like I can't give it as much credit as I'm about to, but part of it is that it's a statement of the social class, that none of these fights really matter. None of these relationships are really substantive at all. And in the end, you're just watching fleeting moments that just they're just going to disappear. They're going to be gone. It'll all be forgotten. Everything that you have just seen, like the character arc being a circle, everything you've just seen for the last 2 hours and 13 minutes is it never happened. We're going to start from zero again. And if that's the case, let's just say we're being super gracious, and that's the case, then that makes it even less of a reason for the film to have been made. Like, it is empty calories for me.
So it kind of reminds me of The Great Gatsby, when you have Nick, when he comes back into the house later and he sees Daisy, and it's like everything is repeating itself, and you've got, the curtains are blowing the same way. And I mean, I can't remember exactly how it plays out, but it's like nothing is changing in their lives. It's like this same cycle that they keep going through. And that's exactly kind of what this film seems like. It's like, this is just the same cycle that these people will perpetually be going through. And, she kind of comes back to her husband and they reunite at the end, and then they'll make The Women too. And it's all, it's about Peggy and her relationship with her husband, and now she's going through this gossipy divorce, and we get to see the whole thing, and it's just like, and everything kind of comes full circle, and they all end up back where they were, and it's just, this is the society that they live in.
That doesn't make it great.
It doesn't make it great. Not at all. But it's almost like that's kind of where they leave us when we get to the end, right?
Isn't it interesting, though, that you would bring up The Great Gatsby talking about this movie, and F. Scott Fitzgerald actually did rewrites on the script?
I know. It's interesting.
It is interesting.
I wonder if he was thinking of any of his characters as he was doing rewrites on this.
I don't know. But it feels like one of those things. Like if we're going to, because so much of The Great Gatsby is about this. It's this story of the American dream. Like what are we achieving out of the American dream? And this period from from the early 1920s to 1950 with the sort of the death of a salesman. Like this period was all about exploring love, loss, and economy around the American dream and this great transformation. And in so many ways, like the women is representative of the absolute worst, right? The excess that came out of, for this class of society that came out of this post-depression. And this film is an exploration of all that was not good and all the greed that comes out of us as human organisms in all the very worst ways.
Yeah.
That's what's offensive about this stinking thing.
Yeah.
What else? What's next?
Well, it was nice seeing Joan Fontaine pop up, even if her character was really ho-hum. Didn't care about her at all. Or her divorce and, getting back together. It's like,
right.
Another one. Mrs. Moorhead, the owl. I wrote down, I'll listen to Owl's advice in poo over hers any day. That's pretty much what I thought about her.
Yeah. If it doesn't end in Gahool, I don't want any.
But that was, the cast, they had some strong performances by some of the ladies at the time, and but the script was what it was, and it made it for a tough watch.
How'd it do? How'd it perform? Did it take the world by storm?
It's interesting, considering the year 1939 that everybody talks about. And this is one of the films that people talk about in 1930, in those great films, which to me it just strikes me as strange. But this film didn't receive any Oscar nominations. It was kind of left out in the cold. Interestingly, it did get remade several times. As we already said, there was the musical comedy in the 50s called The Opposite Sex. Apparently, Rainer Werner Fassbinder remade it as a TV show in Germany in 1977 called Women in New York, and then Diane English's remake in 2008. That was a big bomb. And interestingly, and thanks to Eddie Mannix, who we've talked about on the show a number of times now, most recently in the Hail Caesar episode, who, he had his ledger and he would kind of track all the finances from all the movies at the time for MGM, which I really love. But this film, it looked like it had made a little bit of money. This film in 1939 dollars cost about $1.688 million, which is about just over $28 million in today's dollars. Mm-hmm. But because of the print and advertising budget, which is about $844,000 or about $14,000 in today's dollars, this film ended up losing money in 1939.
Wow.
Which I thought was interesting considering how great it was supposed to be. It ended up making about $2.2 million, which is about $38 million adjusted. So all told, it ended up losing about $33,000 per finished minute in adjusted dollars.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Now I feel a little guilty about the last hour and 10 minutes.
I don't. I feel vindicated.
I mean, not to pile on, but wow. Well, I think it was, that is, I hate to say it, those are sort of some deserved losses.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Anita Luce, but,
This is a film that, and I would say now it makes me sort of want to go read the play, but not really, because I'm so curious how the play, portrays these relationships and portrays these characters. There has to be some sort of redemptive piece to it, and because I certainly didn't see it in the film, we should probably rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel. Sign up for your account, and this is going to be the one you want to start with. You want to start with The Women, 1939, because, you can only go up from here.
All right, the first film. We've got our Oh Brother block. The women are Oh Brother.
Oh, brother.
Oh, brother indeed. The Women or Taxi Driver?
Taxi Driver,
Taxi
Andy.
Driver. I am so glad to hear you say Taxi Driver. The Women or Escape from New York?
Escape from New York, Andrew.
Escape from New York. The Women or The Blob? 1958, Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen.
Totally going with The Blob here. The women ain't got nothing over that blob. Let me tell you. All right. We've got The Women or Pritzi's Honor.
Yeesh, that wasn't good.
It wasn't bad.
I'm going with it. I mean, I'm picking it.
There were some great scenes between Jack and Kathleen.
Yeah.
Pritzi's Honor for me.
Yeah, Pritzi's Honor. Yeah.
The Women, now we're getting down to it. The Women or Scoop?
Scoop.
Oh, that was so bad. That was really bad.
Andy,
I don't recall.
Or the women sitting next to each other. It's the only thing you can watch is Scoop or the Women. You're telling me you're not even going to pay attention to either one of them. You're going to put on the Women?
I'm going to put on Scoop. You're right.
All right.
I was torn because there were like 3 scenes that I enjoyed in The Women. I don't recall a single scene I liked in Scoop, but then I remembered I'd have to sit through a 10-minute fashion show again. I'll take Woody Allen, terrible movie anyway.
Yep.
But all right, The Women or Under the Cherry Moon, Pete?
Under the Cherry Moon, Andy. And I know you're going to say the same thing.
I'm going to say The Women, and I really am sorry that I'm saying it, but
we're doing it. We're going to the mat.
We're going to do it.
Pleasure.
All right.
Uh-huh.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Paper. 1, 2, 3. The Women.
Scissors.
That's me giving that to you, Pete.
Oh, Andy, at the very bottom, dare I say, you are so gracious. May your life serve as a role model for others.
I didn't want your guilty pleasure to be on the bottom forever.
There is only one movie that really deserves to be on the bottom, Andy, and you know you've already broken that.
Oh, the Women?
Now it's The Women, right?
It is The Women. Oh, man. Wow. 1939. What kind of year is this? You know, I was hoping we would do these 1939 series and just find just gem after gem after gem.
Yeah.
And thus far, I mean, there have been some good movies. And, you know, there's a great movie in there, I think. But for the most part, it's like, gosh, what is it about 1939? I hope we get to the bottom of this with our next 4 films.
I do too. And, you know, I have to bring up some historical context here because there was something we totally forgot to talk about, which was these divorce ranches.
Oh, yes.
Right? How did we forget that? This was the most interesting part of the research about this film, and it has nothing to do with the film, apart from the fact that they set the second half of the film there. These divorce ranches. Had you ever heard of anything like this?
No, they have totally different ranches in Nevada now.
Oh, that was good, Andy. That was good comedy.
It's all changed.
There is this period from 1930s to the early 60s where Reno, Nevada had the most liberal divorce rules in the nation. And so as it happened in other states, other cities, you'd have to have a really specific case to get a divorce. And you know, one example here I found is in New York, you could only get a divorce if one spouse could prove that the other spouse had been adulterous. You'd have to have pictures, you'd have to have witnesses, and even with the evidence, you'd have to wait a full year before filing a divorce and eventually being granted one. So it was really hard to get a divorce. Nevada in Reno had 9 grounds where you could get a divorce: impotency, adultery, desertion, conviction of a felony, habitual drunkenness, neglect to provide the common necessities of life, insanity, living apart for 3 years, and extreme cruelty entirely mental in nature and required no proof at all. And that's the state of divorce in Nevada. The only trick is you'd have to live there for 6 weeks, right? You'd have to have 6 weeks residency there, according to a 1931 bill that was designed to spur the Nevada economy in the Depression. I think this is fantastic. So these ranches popped up where men and women, but they were pretty gender specific, where men and women would go and they would live for 6 weeks on these ranches and just go crazy. It's like Rumspringa for the Pennsylvania Dutch kids. It's just going crazy. They would just go and they would have affairs with ranch hands, and they would drink and they would debauch, and that was the thing that they would do, where wealthy people would go and just go crazy in Reno for 6 weeks while waiting for their divorce to clear, and then they'd have a big celebration on their last night, and then they'd go back to their real life. And that was the setting of the second half of this film, is all these ladies end up, and that's part of the comedy of the second half of this film, is all these ladies show up at this ranch, and they're all, it's like dominoes fall. They're all getting divorces. Like, they were all part of the society, and now they're all cowboys, and they're wearing these terrible Western outfits, and just sort of parading around, making a big show of themselves. And so I just thought it was hysterical that this had happened. According to this book, The Divorce Seekers, a photo memoir of Nevada dude wrangler, and in this case, the dudes are not just men, but women too. Anybody who comes from out of town to work a ranch is called a dude. They say mental cruelty, with the most popular charge being it could cover a wide variety of complaints, even something like, quote, "She talks to me when I'm trying to read," or, quote, "He interrupts me while I'm trying to write." That could be grounds for divorce in Reno.
Jeez.
Right? That is fantastic history. I knew nothing about that history, and I think it is that is the gift of this movie, that I got to learn about these Reno Depression era divorce ranches.
And
Brilliant.
What a gift it was.
What a gift.
So with that gift, what did it leave for your star rating over on letterboxd.com/thenextreel?
Well, segue. It left me a big fat, I don't know, what's the lowest we can go?
0.
Yeah, no, it's a
Actually,
0.
well,
It's
you can't really,
half
but-
star, quarter star.
I'm at a half star because, like I said, there are a few scenes I like.
Yeah.
And a few bits of dialogue, and that bit of history really is fascinating. So half star just for the divorce
Half
facts.
star for divorce ranches. I will take that.
Oh, good.
All right. Well, where do we go from here, Andy? Please, for the love of Pete, tell me we do something better after this.
I hope so. I guess we'll find out. We are going to be skipping on over to the Old West, actually, over here in Arizona, in Monument Valley. We're going to be joining John Ford on his stagecoach.
John Ford. John Ford's got to bring us something.
I hope so.
I'm rolling the dice on you, John. Come on.
I've seen this one in film school. I have very vague recollections of it, and I'm curious to rewatch it and see what I think this time.
All right. Let's do it. Before then, though, I got to go to bed.
All right. I'm going to go try getting rid of these Reno jumpy wumps. So I've got a 5-star by Jose.
There are a lot of 5 stars, Andy.
A lot of people love this movie. Wow. 85% 5 stars over on Amazon.
Oh, goodness.
Yep. That's a lot of people who love this movie. And so considering the I don't want to say vitriol, but considering the negative comments that we had to say about it, I figured it was worth reading a 5-star just to see what people had to say.
I agree.
And this is Jose from 1999 watching it on VHS, who says, "One of the greatest and still most underrated Hollywood comedies about the lives, lies, and tricks of a few high society, quote, friends. Cukor is superb in its direction. He looks so comfortable directing only women." I don't recall seeing Cukor in the film, but that this is one of his gayest films. Not even Man appeared as an extra. The women full the screen with wonderful gowns, hilarious dialogue, and catty fights. Norma Shearer in her heartbreaking specialty. She knows how to learn us the immensity of the problem if Joan Crawford steals your man. Joan Fontaine is lovely, and Paulette Goddard and especially Rosalind Russell, our beloved Roz, are incredibly funny. Joan is terrific as well, and as Crystal Allen, she's at her best when she proclaims, "There's names for you ladies, but it doesn't get used in high society outside of a kennel."
Okay, that was a good line.
Yeah, that was a good line. I liked that line. A nice little production code line.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, I disagree.
Yes.
And I also disagree with Rex Maxfield, who also watched this film on VHS tape in 2002 with his review, 5 stars. Hiss! What a cat fight! I've loved this film for years, perhaps more every time I see it. This was the classroom for those Dynasty broads. It is sure one of the best examples of ensemble performance. The first inkling I ever had of this film was in the 1970 Los Angeles Film Exposition's tribute to Rosalind Russell. They showed clips from about 15 of her films, and what they showed from the women was the exercise scene. After that, I was on a mission to see the film. Pre-video. But Roz isn't the only star shining. They all do, even the bit players. So what do they want you to do? Lay an egg? That's a quote from the film. The script by Anita Luce and Jane Murfin, adapted from the Claire Boothe's play, is extraordinarily wonderful. What dialogue. If you haven't had an appreciation for Norma Shearer before, well, you certainly will after seeing this film. And Joan Crawford, Crystal Allen, maybe the woman we'll all like to hate best forever. Oddly, there was no Academy Award nomination for any aspect of this film. Perhaps there was an anti-George Cukor movement abroad in 1939. He was fired from Gone with the Wind, remember? Not even Adrian's costumes. Just get a load of what he put on Roz. If you've never seen the women, shame on you. Wow. I do think it's puzzling that there was no Academy Award nomination for any aspect of the film. We should really not waste any time thinking about that.
Hashtag Oscars so white.
Had this film been released this year, it would have swept.
They'd all get nominated.
Thanks, Amazon.
It is hard to believe we have been having in-depth conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
Season 5 had some great adaptations, like our Meryl Streep Oscar-nominated performances series. We covered adaptations like Kramer vs. Kramer, Sophie's Choice, and The French Lieutenant's Woman.
It's a real Sophie's Choice between those books. You see what I did there?
Yeah. And I don't think it's quite at the level of a real Sophie's Choice.
We also did Snowpiercer for our Bong Joon-ho series, adapted from the French graphic novel Le Transpersonnage. Man, I love that movie.
We had our 2-part 1939 series that included adaptations like Gone with the Wind, Ninotchka, The Women, and The Hound of the Baskervilles.
A number of those 1939 movies, like Goodbye, Mr. Chips, also tied into our recent 1940 Academy Award Best Picture nominee series.
Our naughty children horror series had creepy adaptations like The Bad Seed, Village of the Damned, The Innocents, and Children of the Corn.
For our Hayao Miyazaki series, we talked about his take on Lupin III with The Castle of Cagliostro, plus his own The Wind Rises.
Some great listener choice picks too, Viridiana and The Great Escape.
And for our David Mamet Wright series, The Verdict, The Untouchables, and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Plus, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang from our Shane Black series, adapted from Brett Halliday's novel, Bodies Are Where You Find Them.
Dive into the sources for all of these at thenextreel.com/originals.
Every book you buy helps support the show. Check out thenextreel.com/originals today and find your next read.